Hello, so today we are going to start learning about programming, and what I would like to be done with at the end is a key and a door. If you walk over the key disappears and you have a key. If you walk into the door without a key, it does nothing. If you walk to the door with a key, then the door disappears, you lose a key, but you can go through the door now. And I'm going to have to teach you some programming to make that happen. But it'll be a good time. So let's get started. So here we are in our indoor level. I'm right next to my FPS controller. And the first thing I want to build is a key. And it's just going to be a placeholder key. So I'm going to build a 3D object sphere and use Control and Shift to drag it closer to my scene. In the inspector, I want to add a tag. So the way that this works is if we run into something that is tagged as a key, then we can do some programming logic with that. So let's first, with this key selected, go over to tag. And you'll see there is no tag for key, so we're going to add one. Let's hit the plus sign here under tags and layers. I'm going to name this key. And while we're at it, let's just go ahead and build one for door. Mine are capitalized. We'll need to make sure that this matches our code later, so be specific about your tags. If we select the sphere again, we can go to our tag, and there are our new tags. So this is tagged as key. That's great. That's all it needs for now. Over on the player, the FPS controller, let's make sure. Is this the thing that actually moves? Yes. Okay, I want to build an area called a trigger. An area in front of it that if this trigger area runs into something else, then we can check to see, hey, are you tagged as a key? So we are going to close up all of these, and I'm going to add a sphere collider. I'm going to tell it to be a trigger, and I'm going to set the radius to 1.1. And if we look at this, and we need to offset it a little bit too. So this green sphere, this is the sphere collider that we're talking about. This is our trigger area. And the size that I'm looking for is roughly like arm's reach. And if we make it exactly 1, one of the things that we can run into is it won't grab the floor, won't grab things on the floor. So I set it to be a radius of 1.1 so I can make sure I can get things in the floor. Now this is halfway in the floor, so it's not going to worry about that. But I need to worry about reaching things that are up higher. So I'm going to offset the center on the y-axis up so that it surrounds my collider. It's probably just a y radius of 1. And you can see it's a little bit bigger than the capsule. It goes underneath the floor very slightly. And this is exactly what I'm looking for. This green sphere here. It's about arm's length away. And so the idea is that at some point, this sphere collider is going to intersect with the key, and then things are going to happen in a function called onTriggerEnter. We'll talk about that in a minute. Actually, we're ready to build our script. We have set up what we need for the key. We haven't built our door yet, but we will. So also on the player capsule, the same thing that you have used to build your sphere collider, let's add a component called player controller. Ooh, is that what we want? Yeah, sure. Why not? Player controller. No spaces, capital P, capital C. When you are building scripts, please always use this functionality of the first word, every every word is capitalized. So if you have 5 or 6 words in your name, that's okay. As long as they're all capitalized, it's fairly easy to read. And Unity will even add a little space every time you capitalize a letter so that it knows, hey, this is a different word. My favorite way to get to this script is to just double click on it. But you might get slightly different functionality than me. It might open a different program. This opens in Visual Studio Code, but yours might not do that. It might open Visual Studio, or it might open nothing. It might open Notepad. Let's fix it. So at this point, I want to make sure that you know to have Visual Studio Code installed. I will leave a link in the modules to where you can get that. After you have VS Code installed, if you go to Edit and then Preferences, under External Tools, under External Script Editor, you should have the option of selecting Visual Studio Code as opposed to Visual Studio Community or something else that you have. If it's not available here, you can browse and go to the VS Code exe or application in your program files folder. Okay. So back to Visual Studio Code. Let's talk about our code. So I'm going to delete all this. I want you to do the same. And we'll just start from scratch. So this player controller is a script that exists inside of Unity Engine. And Unity Engine has a whole bunch of other code that we're going to use. We're not building the physics system from scratch. We're not building the on-trigger enter system from scratch. Unity Engine has all of that. So the first line that we want to have is using Unity Engine. So that when we say void start or void update or on-trigger enter, that code knows how to do everything it needs to do because we're using Unity Engine. And then we're going to build our script, the part of the script that we need. So public class, and then we want to make sure that it's named player controller, exactly the same as the file name is, except for the .cs, don't include that. Public class player controller, and it is going to inherit from mono behavior. I think I spelled that right. Let's see. Player controller. Yeah, okay. So Control C, Control A, Control V. So here we are, just like this. And so that's the name of our script, and that creates the script itself. It says, hey, the script starts here. And we're going to build a code block. And a code block always starts with a open curly brace. Curly brace, because it is curly. And the code block ends with the closing curly brace. Let's use the same word. So open and close, start and end of the curly brace. And this is just our box of code. Well, it doesn't go down that long. Right now, this box of code is very small because there's nothing inside. Okay, code block. Every time you build an open curly brace, and we're going to build several more, we tab out by 4 spaces all the code within. So right now we're going to build a variable, an integer variable called keys, or total keys. And so this has 3 things happening. One is, what kind of data is it? Is it a word? So is it a word? Is it a number? Is it a Boolean value that's either true or false? this one is a number. Int is short for integer, and that's the thing that it is. And this matters because if you add two words, right, if you add the word Brian and the word Foster together, you're going to get Brian Foster. But if you add the number 1 and the number 1, you don't want to get 1, 1, you want to get 2. So that's why it matters that variables have different types. So this is a number, and the name of our variable, our data, is called total keys. This is just a nickname to keep track of the variable. We have to name it something. And then we set the value equal to 0. So let's add a comment. A comment is a special little note for ourselves. We can add as many of these as we want. It won't affect the code at all. And a comment is made by doing 2 slashes, like that. And we can write something in here like variable type is integer. Variable name is total keys. Variable value is 0. There you go. So this keeps track of how many keys we have. If we start out having no keys, and hopefully when we run into a key, it adds 1. So let's talk about a function. So a function is different than data. A function actually does something. Some data, it will change your data. It will check to see if there's some data that happens. In this case, we're looking for on trigger enter. So void on trigger enter. Notice that all of the new words are capitalized. In variables, we have the first letter lowercase and all other words capitalized. But in functions and in script names, we capitalize the first letter as well as every other word. Okay, so on trigger enter, collider other. Here's those curly braces. We're building a new code block inside of our bigger code block. So here's the big code block, and here's the smaller on trigger enter code block. And so you'll see in just a moment, we'll tab this out. But let's talk about what's happening here. So the return type of void, that's what this is. And that means that it doesn't return any data, it just runs and then it's done. On trigger enter is the name of the function. It has to be spelled exactly like this and capitalized exactly like this. Otherwise, it won't link up with the Unity Engine stuff. This is a function that has been built by Unity Engine so that we can use it. And then finally, in the parentheses of this function are parameters. So these are the inputs. If you think about algebra, f of x equals 4, or f of 2 equals 4, f of 4 equals 8, f of 3 equals 6. So maybe you can guess what this function does. Maybe we can change this to be a y, or we can just call this f of x is equal to 2x. This function is just doubling whatever input we give it. So we give it the number 2, and it gives us back the number 4. In this case, this would be the parameter, and this would be the return type. So we're not returning anything, but we do have some inputs. We have a collider. Sorry, if it wasn't clear. If we put in 2, we get out 4. If we put out 4, we get out 8. If we put out 3, we get out 6. It's just doubling whatever we give it. Okay, so we're giving it a collider, not the one that we are, not the sphere collider, but the thing that we ran into. So that's why it's called other. So the other thing. So in the Unity scenario, when this green trigger runs into anything else, whether it's the floor or the wall or the key, this onTriggerEnter method is going to run. Method and function are the same thing. I'm going to write that down. So this method is going to run every time that green sphere runs into anything. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a test. We're going to say if the other thing is tagged as a key, do some special stuff. Otherwise, ignore it. So if other.gameObjects.compare tag to key, we are going to add 1 to total keys. Let's do plus equals 1. And then we're going to destroy the other.gameObject. So we destroy the key once we collect it. Okay, so that was a bunch of stuff, wasn't it? So this other right here, that's the thing that we ran into. It's a collider. You can see it's a collider right here. That's the variable type that it is. And I can show you in Unity what that looks like. If we run into the key, for example, the key has a sphere collider. So that is the collider. If we run into a wall, the wall has a mesh collider. And that would be the collider that we would run into. And so the next line is the game object that the collider is attached to. So let's go find the game object. That is this bit up here. Come on. So everything here is the game object. So there's the name of the game object. There's the tag, which we're going to talk about. What layer is it on? Is it static or not? Is it enabled or not? So we're checking the game object, and then we're checking the tag. Is the tag, we're comparing, does this tag equal the string key? And if they do, then we've got a match. So an if statement, which is what this is something you're going to run into a whole bunch. It's basically just if the test is true, run this code. And if it's not true, don't run the code. So if the test inside of the parentheses is equal to true, run this new code block. See, there's another code block happening. 1 code block, 2 code blocks, 3 code blocks. So if the other thing that we just ran into, if its game object, if its tag is equal to key, add 1 to total keys and destroy the other game object. Because, when you pick up a key, you put it in your pocket and it stops existing in the room, right? And starts existing in your pocket. We don't have a pocket, we're pretending, so we just destroy it. Let's do one more thing. Let's find out how many keys we have when we start the function and how many keys we have when we hit this. We can start with just a simple debug.log. Debug.log. I now have keys. So this is going to say I now have as a string of text, and then it's going to say 0, or it's going to say 1 or 2 or 3, and then it'll say keys. So this text will be say I now have 3 keys. Or probably just one key once I run into this. So we're going to look for this text in the console, and we'll try it out. Now you, beginning programmer, might run into some errors. This console usually is tucked behind the project, and I like to drag it out to be its own window. That way I can see what's going on all the time. I'm also going to turn maximize on play off so we can start seeing what's in our console. I'm going to hit play. And then I'm going to run into this key. And nothing's going to happen. I'm not sure why. All right, you've got a sphere collider. It is a trigger. You have a player controller. This is tagged as a key. If we select both of these things, then I should be able to watch this collider go into the other collider. And I see that it goes through it. Like that's very obvious. But I'm not getting my on trigger enter. Okay, so let's troubleshoot. It's good. It's good that it didn't work. I want to be able to troubleshoot. So let's check this on trigger enter script and see if I can collide with anything. Make sure you're inside the right code block. You want to be inside the curly brace of the on trigger enter. And we want to say debug.log I have run into, and then we'll say other.name, or sorry, other.gameObject.name. And so that should say, I have run into floor, I have run into sphere 1, I have run into the key, ostensibly. And let's see if that runs. If that doesn't run, then we've got other errors. Oh, I think I might know what it is. Okay, I've run into player capsule, I've run into player capsule, and that's the only thing it runs into. How strange. So I can see that the code is working, it's just not working the way that I want it to. On trigger enter requires that at least one object, either the player or the key, has a rigid body. And this basic first-person controller, as far as I can tell, does not have a rigid body. Maybe I put it on the wrong thing. Nevertheless, on my player capsule, where I have my sphere collider, where I have my player controller, I'm going to add a component, rigid body, and I'm going to set it to is kinematic. I don't want the player to fall through the world unless the player controller tells it to fall through the world, or the first-person controller. So if it's kinematic, then it can be animated. It just lends itself to things like the sphere collider. Let's hit play and see if that fixes it. Run into floor, run into floor 4, run into wall, and then my key is destroyed when I pick it up. It now says, if we can collapse this, I now have 1 keys. Woo! It's grammatically incorrect, sure, but like the key works, and let's go ahead and just duplicate this a couple times. And when we hit play now, I now have 1 key, 2 keys, 3 keys. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. One of the other things we can do, and we can do this, it's helpful as a programmer or as a game developer to make this variable serialized. And what that will do is it will let us change that number whenever we want to in the inspector. So go ahead and add that serialize field option above int total keys. And what that will do, if we go back to our player capsule, is it will show us what our total keys are and let us start with 1 key, or start with 2 keys, start with 0 keys. That can be helpful if you have a door, but you put the player in a place that they can't get to the key, so they just give them a key. Okay, so to prove that it works, I'm going to change total keys to 5, and when I run into another key, it should say you now have 6 keys. There it is. So let's get that door built, shall we? So in void on trigger enter, let's comment out this line. We don't want to destroy it because maybe we need to use it again, but we can press Control/ to make it a comment. We can press Control/ again to bring it back, Control/ to comment things in and out. And you can do this to entire sections of code. Just select it and press Control/. Okay, this code gets commented out because we don't need it. Here's this if statement, this code block. Boop, boop, boop. And we want to go below that. So place your cursor at the end of this if statement, at the end of that code block. Hit enter twice and create another if statement. If other.gameObject.compare tag door, open curly brace, and then hit enter. And then we'll have another if statement, because if we run into the door, we now need to check to see if we have enough keys. If total keys is greater than 0. So if it's equal to 0, that won't be true. If it's equal to 1 or 37, this will be true. If total keys is greater than 0, subtract 1 from total keys, minus equals 1, and then destroy the other.gameObject, which in this case is the door. So if this is true, we know that other is the door. And we subtract some keys, and we do this. Let's do an else statement. So if total keys is greater than 0, great, destroy the door. Otherwise, if that's false, else debug.log, you need a key. So we have quite a few code blocks now. We have this one, and this one, and this one, this one, on trigger enter, sorry, it goes to this, and then the entire script itself, which goes up higher. Please make sure that you are tabbing out 4 spaces for everything that's inside a code block. Keep track of that. Otherwise, you'll run into issues of, I can't find the errors that I need. My code isn't in the same place as yours. So I'll leave this open for a minute. If you run into issues like you're missing semicolons, that's going to happen a lot. If your words aren't spelled right, I get this story a lot. I write it that way wrong myself all the time. If total keys is lowercase once, you're going to get an error. It might give you some red squiggly lines. It might not. I'm going to save this and show you what an error looks like in Canvas. Sorry, in the console. You'll get this error. Says assets player controller line 20. The name total keys does not exist in the current context. So we know line 20 right there. Line 20 is where the error is, and there's something to do with total keys. We're not sure. So we go over here. We go to line 20. You look at your line. you look at my line. Sometimes it's helpful to read it backwards. So I'll start at this end and say, okay, yeah, he has that. He has one of those. It's 0. There's a space. There's a angle bracket going the correct direction. And then S, Y, E, K. Oh, the K is not capitalized. Total. Because our brains are like, it's total keys, it's total keys. That's the same thing. And so we have to like untrain our brain to look backwards. And then our brain is like, I don't recognize what this word is. You get the idea. Okay, let's build a door. I'm going to build a 3D object cube and set it right in the way. Let's just use some rectangles to spread this out. Doesn't need to be that thick. Whenever I do doors, you want to be careful not to make it look like a wall. So you want to give it a little bit of indentation here, and maybe, you know, some light spilling out from past the wall, to show that, hey, this is a door. Maybe people can see around the door. Maybe you can add a big giant piece of text that says this is a door. And then we're just going to tag this as a door. So I'll hit play. It's going to be kind of hard actually for me to hit this door without hitting one of the keys. Oh, turns out I can do it. Oh, nope, because I started with 6 keys, didn't I? So let's go up and select the player capsule, set my total keys back to 0, and hit play. What I'm looking for is that else statement where the debug.log tells me that I need a key. So we always want to make sure that our incorrect solution works as well. So I'll go back, I'll select a key, and then I'll open the door. Ta-da! And if we look back at our player, we should see that our total keys is now back to 0. So, functionality. What have we learned? Let's recap. We have variables. They're just data. They're how many keys do I have? Am I hungry or not? In this case, it's just how many keys do I have? And then we have functions or methods. And that's where the action happens. That's where something changes. In this case, we change total keys to add 1. And then we destroy the key. In the case of running into the door, we subtract a key and we destroy the door. These if statements are just tests. If and then test. If the test is true, it runs. If the test is false, well, we have else statements. Or nothing can happen, and that's fine too. Okay. Build some doors around your level, and I'll see you in the next one.